Dr. Jitendra Kumar holds a PhD degree in biotechnology from the Institute of Microbial Technology, Chandigarh. Subsequently, he moved to the University of Illinois at Chicago. During his next stint at the Ohio State University, he worked on various cutting-edge research projects. He has also authored several internationally acclaimed peer-reviewed papers. Amidst these qualifications is also an MBA from the Fisher College of Business at the Ohio State University. After his return from the US, he joined as a Vice President of Life Science Incubator at IKP Knowledge Park in Hyderabad, where he actively mentored the Incubatee companies. As a director and head of the BBC, his current focus is on incubating innovations such as agriculture, food and nutrition, bioenergy, and healthcare. He works closely with Karnataka Biotechnology and Information Technology Services, departments of IT, BT, and S&T, Govt of Karnataka, to create a vibrant life sciences innovation cluster in Bangalore. Mr. Jitendra Kumar, welcome to this session of the special series of the KYE, the Entrepreneurs of the BBC. Can you tell us something more about the Bangalore Bioinnovation Center and its mandates?
Bangalore Bioinnovation Center is a state-of-the-art incubation center. Incubation center means it's a center that nurtures the startup companies in the areas of life sciences. When we say life sciences, it means healthcare. Healthcare again is divided into two different areas, medtech and biopharma, pharma. And apart from healthcare, which is a major focus, we have environmental biotechnology, industrial biotechnology, and agri, food and nutrition. These areas and the related areas also we can, as long as it's life sciences, even if it's a climate change, even it's a green energy, clean energy, we would be nurturing these startups and innovations in these areas.
You have mentioned many of these subsections of life sciences at large. Is there anything or any parts of these sections that you cater to specifically or promote a little more compared to the others?
This may not be by design, but spontaneously, or you can say coincidentally, we have seen a lot of life sciences healthcare startups here. So I could say that some 70% of startups are in the areas of life sciences, healthcare, basically healthcare. And that too in healthcare, we see most of them into medical devices and diagnostics. So I could say that out of 70% healthcare, we would have around 60% medical devices and diagnostics startups. That may be one reason, maybe it's a low-hanging fruit. The other reason could be that there are a lot of focus on healthcare because of COVID situation, because of infectious diseases. Before that, we saw a lot of deaths in dengue, other H1N1. So because of epidemiology, because of the emphasis on healthcare, I think a lot of startups are into medical devices and diagnostics.
You have mentioned a lot about healthcare and pharma, etc. But you yourself have a background in agriculture. Has that been helpful, or has that helped you enhance any of the incubatees here?
Yes, yes. This is very, important to understand that life sciences is an organic subject, and we may be studying something, botany, zoology, but underlying current or the DNA of the subject is same, which is DNA itself. I mean, it's a gene. So, and when we say agriculture, your specific question about agriculture, me studying agriculture and how it has helped, I would say that agriculture is a very vast subject, and it has not only the plant sciences, traditionally the agronomy and soil sciences, etc., but it also has, say for example, meteorology, weather sciences. We also got trained in reconnaissance or landscaping. We also got trained in animal husbandry, poultry, and in fact, we also had food and nutrition courses where we studied about human biology. So in all, I would say it's a vast subject, and because of that, and of course management and accountancy also it was covered. That has helped me immensely in helping the startups, not only in agriculture areas, but also in other areas.
Interesting indeed. Could you give us a little bit of insight into how, as the BBC, you help support these new startups?
Bangalore Bioinnovation Center's mandate is to nurture life sciences startups, and we provide mentorship to these startups because most of them are coming from, they are scientists basically, and they want to start their venture, they want to commercialize their IPs, they want to see that their invention goes to market. So they may not have a good knowledge about the business. So we provide mentorship, business mentorship. But that doesn't mean that we don't provide technical mentorship. Sometimes it is because we have a very strong technical team also. And because, as I said earlier also, this whole life science is very organic subject and interconnected. So, for example, if somebody is working on, say, drugs, chemistry, and he wants to or she wants to test it on a cell culture, and they don't have any background in cell culture or life sciences, then our team helps them in designing those experiments. So technical help also, mentorship and business help also, that is part of mentorship. Then we have, of course, a world-class infrastructure and equipment facility which we provide to them. That is the crux of where we provide modular suites, laboratories, equipment, infrastructure, so much so that if they need any particular equipment and we feel that it may be part of the ecosystem where many users can be there, then we buy also for them. So, and then apart from mentorship and infrastructure, we have a very strong funding program. So we provide funding to these startups both as a grant, as a loan, a debt, or a convertible debenture or equity. So all modes of funding is there. Apart from these three, which is a core of our mentorship program, our nurturing support program, we also have created a very good branding and networking for our startups. We take these startups to international events. We have a very good ecosystem, created ecosystem for networking these startups to many different stakeholders. So in all, there is a, you can say, plug and play infrastructure support, and also anything that they need or anything that is needed for them to take their products to market or technology to market, that we provide.
The Bangalore Bioinnovation Center by itself has already earned its name in the international standards. And it, I believe, as from what I have seen, it has earned it well, I must say. There have been a lot of references to this in international events, in articles by various scientists, etc. But for the benefit of others who might be looking to step in here or who might want to be part of you, can you elaborate on the ecosystem that you have and that you provide for such people?
Ecosystem building is a very important aspect of Bangalore Bioinnovation Center, because we strongly believe that the life sciences startup cannot thrive without that nurturing ecosystem. What is ecosystem? Ecosystem is where the stakeholders of that field are interconnected. They are very aligned, well aligned, and they talk to each other. They know each other, and even if they don't know, I mean, first, second, third reference is fine for them to get the work done. For example, who are the parts of this ecosystem? Venture funding companies are part of the ecosystem. The vendors who provide equipment to these incubation centers and the incubatees are part of the ecosystem, because without this equipment and other things, they cannot work. The pilot scale manufacturing people who, suppose for scale up, they want to, suppose some startup wants to do prototyping or go for scale up of their product, there must be nearby areas where they can do a 500 liter, 1000 liter fermentation, for example. One example I said. They must be able to access the animal house for preclinical trials. They must be able to access hospitals. They are integral part of our ecosystem for doing clinical trials. They must be connected to the regulatory bodies so that they know that such innovations are happening, and there should not be any bottleneck for regulatory agencies to deal with these innovations. There must be a global linkages for these startups to launch their products globally. So all these components of ecosystem will have to come together for any startup to succeed. And that's what Bangalore Bioinnovation Center is doing. Our mandate is to bring together all this ecosystem together and put our startups there, and ease of doing business. I mean, for them, there should be ease of doing business right from the ideation to the commercialization. That's what our aim is.
The bio-life sciences as a subject itself is very vast. And then when you have startups in this particular region, there, as you correctly mentioned, there are different verticals, there are different unconnected paths which could be connected behind the corners, as you would say, which itself proves to be a huge challenge. Could you tell us something about some similar challenges, or perhaps the biggest challenge that you face, and how you, as the managing director of the BBC, address the same?
In fact, this is a great challenge, and India is very nascent as far as the innovation is concerned. We have been known mostly for similars or biosimilars or generics. We are very strong in those areas, but as innovation is concerned, we were not so strong. But now we are picking up. So there is a challenge then because the ecosystem was not there. So the biggest challenge I faced when I started Bangalore Bioinnovation Center here in 2016 is that there were not a good large pipeline of entrepreneurs who would occupy our center. So we had to create some programs of technology development program, technology entrepreneurship development program, or even going to the industry to convince that okay, some employees not directly talking to the industry, but talking to these people who could do certain innovations because they have spent a lot of time in industry. So convincing them that they can start their own because there is a huge facility here. It's a plug and play. All that is needed is there. There is a government fund programs, funding program from the government side which you can kickstart, like Biotech Ignition Grant or Karnataka government's Elevate 100 program. So all that is required for them to start their own, to giving shape to their own ideas. We tried to spark whatever was there as a dream for them. And then many of them came from industries and they started their own entrepreneurship. We reached out to academics, professors, scientists who had their own ideas, but they did not know how to start. They did not know the bigger picture as to how to actually do it because the entry barrier is very high. So we provided them the awareness and knowledge how it can be done. We talked to students. So we created a good pipeline of entrepreneurs, and we were fortunate that we are in Bangalore, which is considered a startup capital of India and even globe also. And there were a lot of enthusiasm and energy with these youngsters and many scientists and people coming from industries, and they created many startups, and then they occupied Bangalore Bioinnovation Center. That was one challenge that we solved or met that challenge. The other challenge was funding. We did not have a funding mechanism foolproof or a good funding, robust mechanism to support these startups. Biotech Ignition Grant from DBT or BIRAC came in handy. But then Government of Karnataka rolled out its startup policy in year 2016. I am fortunate enough to be part of that policy making, and I made sure that there was seed funding available for those startups. So apart from central government, the state government also supported these startups through their seed funding. Then we approached again central government to initiate some seed funding which can be given to these incubation centers themselves, and we will support these startups. So that also came. Then we approached state government about early stage funding, unavailability of early stage funding. So they started Kitwen Biotech Fund, which is a venture funding. Then we convinced the startup India's DPIIT to start another seed fund program. So to say the least, we did whatever possible to make sure that the funding for these startups are made available to any reasonable proposal. I mean, any reasonable entrepreneur who want to start something, they should not feel the funding crunch. That was another problem that we faced, and we met those challenges. The other challenge was the ecosystem building. So how do startups feel that, okay, they are connected to the all the stakeholders that are required? So we made connections with the regulatory bodies, whether it is ICMR, CDSCO. Then we made connections with the vendors who can provide equipment support or maintenance of the equipment, that infrastructure. We created our own infrastructure for pilot scale manufacturing of this thing, molecules. GMP facility we created. We created BSL2 facility, BSL3 facilities being made, being under construction. We also created larger space for the startups to grow, because when the startups came here in BBC, they were 1 or 2 people. Now they all have 10, 12, 15 staffs, and they are still startups. So we created a lot of space. Now second floor is being built, you can see. And Rashtriya Krishi Vikas Yojana has given 50 crores grant to us to create a farm innovation center for agriculture innovators. So in all fronts, we try to meet those challenges which the startups were facing. So yeah, I think and still ongoing. It's challenges,
of course, yes,
are ongoing. Yeah.
You have mentioned about the grants and the funding, etc., from the central government and the state government of Karnataka. Are you involved with any funding agencies or angel investors, etc., from the private sector as well? Are you open to it? Have you already been working with anyone?
Yes, because the grants are only small and ignition type of funding, meaning that they would be required at the much early stage. But as the startups grow, they would like more money for scale-up activities, for going to market. So the funding requirements, say for example, grants would not exceed 50 lakhs. I have not seen any grant exceeding 50 lakhs so far. But then DBT or BIRAC, which is Biotechnology Industry Research Assistance Council, they came up with some funding, program which was half grant, half loan, etc. That is SIBRI or BIPP type of grants. But still, it doesn't solve the problem of a large scale, say 2.53 crores or 5 crores funding that is required for in between, or to go to the next stage. So we are very open to any venture funding, angel funding. In fact, we are connected to the India Angel Network. Kitwen, another fund I told, has started by the government of Karnataka's support. Then we have a lot of international collaborations. For example, JETRO. JETRO is Japanese trade organization who are very open to funding these startup companies here, Australia. So if Indian venture funding, early stage venture funding is not mature enough, we would like to, in fact, we have gone ahead and tried to capture the international market also for venture funding. So we are very open to it. In fact, we keep on talking to venture funding people.
Okay. As a bio-life sciences incubator, apart from the funding and these challenges that you have said, in terms of operations in terms of identifying the startups whom you would incubate here, etc., and accessibility, and many other related such situations. What would you deem as some of the things that should be mentioned or that should be spoken about?
Yes, yes. This is in fact a very important question. We keep on saying very hi-fi things and paint a very optimistic picture about this, that, requirement, etc., challenges outside the incubation center. But what the incubation center itself is facing challenge as in operations it itself is a very important question. It is like saying that, okay, student after passing out from school will go college, engineering, medicine, but what is the situation of the school?
Precisely.
How the school? So what is the base that we are forming for the students is most important thing. So operations, it involves so many things. One is that we make sure that the world-class equipment is made available 24/7 in running condition. If anything goes bad, we immediately talk to the vendors, equipment who can do the services and repair it. So that is very prompt here. Second is, as you can understand, 50 startup companies physically located in one place and they are using the equipment. How difficult it would be to actually manage that. We have seen the scientists or researchers who are doing work in national research labs would understand that it's very difficult for scientists to actually use the equipment, and another scientist coming, and there's a booking system have to be there. There are instances of misuse of equipment. There are instances of breaking off equipment breakdowns. There are instances of sometimes the samples are lost. So because there are a lot of people working and they're separate companies. So confidentiality issues. For example, some companies should not feel that their data has been compromised or somebody has stolen. So that we have to take care. They should be feeling secure when they are here. So cameras are here and our staff are very vigilant about this. There are independent laboratories that we have given to each startup companies. This is not available anywhere else. There are shared bench spaces where people work in different, say CCAM for example, if I can say. They are all good institutions, but what I'm trying to say is that we have tried to see what are the loopholes and we have tried to fill it up here. And that is how it has become a global center of excellence in incubation. The other areas of operation, especially in COVID time, we faced the challenge of lockdown. Then we made sure that this is open 24/7. We made sure that passes are given to the startups so they can come and, because after all they were working on COVID. So we intimated to the government that we'll be opening and we took a special permission. We made sure that all the safety guidelines are met. Everybody is doing basic hygiene, mask, wearing masks, etc., strictly implementing. And the other challenges that we face inside the operations is how do we meet the requirement of each incubatee in terms of their equipment requirement. So we have to have a lot of funding for that. If somebody needs this equipment, we have to buy. If somebody needs a special facility, for example, GMP, we have to create that. So we convince the government that, okay, please give us funding for that so that we can create all this infrastructure. And that is how, see, the other thing is we never go and build something ourselves unless we take at least 3-4 startup companies on board saying that, okay, this is required. What is the specification of that is required? Most of the institutions, they just buy something out of their own experience, but that may not meet the requirement of actual users. So one thing that distinguishes us is that we consult our stakeholders or the startup companies in a very engaged manner so that we don't miss out on, okay, we created something which is of no use for the startups. Yeah, I think, and the challenges are of running such huge center is immense with so many startup companies. Daily we have to do a firefighting, you can say. We are always on our toes.
As you said, when you have to source such equipments, such very specific equipments from which are at world standards, you also need operators for the same, for the calibration and regular day-to-day operations of these as well. How much of a challenge has it been for you to find such manpower and to get them to stay here with you?
See, retaining the talent in an organization has always been a challenge, and it has been a topic of research and discussion starting from Harvard to any institution. In this global competitive world, it is very difficult to hire and retain the talented staff. I am very proud to say that Bangalore Bioinnovation Center has been able to retain almost all their staff right from beginning. This is tremendous. Attrition rate is such low here, you cannot imagine. I can say that attrition happened only for few reasons. Whatever happened, one or two people left the organization. They moved to abroad, for example, for higher education. I would not say that this is attrition. This is a training, and it's possible that they may return back after some time. So how we have achieved this? The one important thing is that all the employees should feel the part of the organization. They should belong. They should have a sense of belonging. Their incentives should be aligned to the organization's objective. Meaning that we have already told all my employees that if you bring certain grants or you are active part of bringing some funds, you will be given some incentives, financial incentives. If you do some cost cutting for the organization or have an innovative way of increasing the income of the organization, you will be a part of that. So linking their motivation and energy into the organization's objective, aligning them is very important for retaining them. Also to enthuse with them the sense of purpose, sense of meaning in life. So you are, I always encourage my staff that you are part of a innovation which is leading the whole century now. So if you build your career in this, even though you may not have the highest salary as we can provide as multinational company, or all multinational companies can provide, you can be part of a very meaningful journey. The flexibility, if anybody wants to leave for their family, so work-life balance is very important for us. Even though it's a 24/7 facility, I'm very proud to say that our staff come whenever it is needed, and whenever they need any kind of leave or vacation, we are very happy to provide. So it's a win-win situation for both, everybody.
Yeah. As they say, the proof of the pudding lies in its consumption. And I'm happy to hear about the work culture that you have brought about here. And that speaks volumes when you say that the staff that you have from the beginning continue to work with you, and only the one or two have left for higher education and such. It speaks huge about the status and the standards of the center itself. I congratulate you for the same.
Thank you.
Having said all this, this entire conception itself and putting this together itself would have been a huge task. Can you speak a little about the history of this and how and the center came into being, for example?
So this is this came under one government scheme called Biotech Parks scheme of Department of Biotechnology, Government of India, and state government, that is state government of Karnataka through Department of Electronics, IT, BT, and SMT. So it's a joint collaboration between the center and the state. Although the Biotech Park scheme has been in place for a long time, since year 2005 we got the grant, all other parks got the grant under this scheme. But we are very proud to say that this is the only center which has become the, you can say, flag bearer of that program. We have started functioning, we are very agile, we are very vibrant, we have lot of, it's the largest biotech startup ecosystem in India right now. Then when the grant came from government of India, and our department allocated land for this Bangalore Bioinnovation Center, around 10 acres of land. And then the various models of operations of this center was being mulled or being thought about in the vision group of biotechnology, which we have a very strong, committee which advises government about how to implement biotech policies or biotech action plan. So when we were mulling, and that time I had not joined, so but still I'm using the word we.
Of course, you are a part of this.
Yeah,
now.
but earlier that I came only in 2013, but I'm talking about before that. So before that, it was being mulled how to actually run. Is a private body is going to run it better? For example, Alexandria, for example, one a company which is globally known for running the biotech parks, incubation centers, and bigger biotech parks. But somehow we did not find any interest in the private bodies to run such center because the financial returns are not huge, but the investment is huge. So we could not find. Then we were thinking whether some incubation centers which are already established, like C-Camp, can they handle and run, but that didn't work out. So ultimately, that time I was in Biotech Park in Hyderabad, ICIC Knowledge Park. I was handling life sciences innovation, and we were one of the best innovation centers there. I got the award for that. Coincidentally, when I was receiving the award in Delhi about the best innovation center being in Hyderabad, the officers, senior level officers, were also being awarded for the best state. Karnataka is the best state for innovation. And somehow we met, and I was invited. I was asked whether I will be interested to come here and set up this thing, this park. And I immediately said yes, because it's a government initiative, it's Bangalore, so I definitely wanted to. And then, of course, the formalities of advertisement and committee, selection and all happened, and I joined. As soon as I joined, I tried to create a framework for running this. It was not there physically; it was not there. Only four pillars were there.
Oh, I see. The building was not there.
Building was not there. Equipment was not. Nothing was implemented. So but they were, because I told that they were looking for how to actually, what was the business model for running this. Then when I joined, I was made a nodal person to initiate this, and I started not only the construction part and the equipment setting part and the team building, but also I started convincing government to create a Section 8 company, a new entity, which was so difficult for government to even grasp and understand, because it's not there in any other part of the country, where state government has set up a Section 8 company to run an incubation center. It's a standalone incubation center. There are Section 8 companies, I'm not saying no, but not for incubation center, because it's a commercial activity. Government, as you know, is very separate from commercial activity.
True.
And in any ways, to start convincing government about creating a Section 8 company itself is a Herculean task, is within the bureaucracy, as we all know. But anyway, it happened, and hats off to government of Karnataka. I mean, the officers here are so innovative in their approach, and they listen, they're flexible, they listen to the ideas of the professionals like us, and then it was agreed upon, Section 8 company has to be formed. There was of course, the government control is there. I report to Additional Chief Secretary of the Department of Electronics, ITBT, and SNT, and then we have formed a board. Next level, the board is which looks into the strategic and regulatory aspects, compliances, etc. But there is a technical advisory team also which we have created, which consists of eminent people like former director of ISC, industry leaders, academicians, maybe one or two startups also, which is actually a body which guides us in many ways. So what should be the rentals, how to select these startups. I think one of your questions was how do we actually select the startups. So there is a committee where we attract the startups, and they have to present before the committee. And the committee, when the committee is convinced that these are good startups, then only we give space. In fact, the greatest challenge when we created this whole center was how to actually fill it up. and the committee was so rigorous that they were not allowing any company to come up if they are not competent enough, if they are not meeting those criteria. And at that time I was like, why, is waste, space is being waste, why they are not allowing these companies, they will be able to pay rent. But I was told that excellent companies only has to come here. Companies who are doing the innovative research, companies who have very good business model, business plan, they have very good team, etc., only have to come here, because we want quality rather than any quantity. And hats off to the vision of technical advisory resource group. We have now 50 selected, curated startups who are launching innovative products. They are internationally recognized, awards, and this thing. 25 companies have gone and set up their own. They have graduated. They have gone and set up their own industry. So it's a huge success story, I would say. And Government of Karnataka and Government of India's vision of creating such flagship program and world-class bio-incubation center has paid well, I would say.
There have been a lot of products that have evolved through the incubatees here in the BBC. I myself, being a COVID warrior, have come across various references to things and discoveries that have come about from the BBC, which is a huge feather in your cap, especially given that COVID is a pandemic. The whole world is trying to find solutions for this. And when a center like this sitting in Bangalore in India comes out with products which are at international standards, which can be compared to what anyone else in the world is making too, it is something to be very proud of. Could you tell us something more about this?
So when COVID struck in India in year 2000, early parts of 2020, it started in 2019, but say, it was having a wave in 2020. Many of the startups, they diverted their many resources and expertise to solving the COVID needs, need of the hour for the country. And BBC also geared towards solving those needs by providing, space to any entrepreneur who comes with an idea for COVID amelioration or COVID solving any COVID-related issues. We gave some funding also to these startups, and as a result, a lot of traction was built to solve this COVID issues. So many products were developed and launched during that time from BBC, and there was not many institutions which were launching such products, and BBC was in the forefront. So we launched, for example, CD4 Shield, which is it's a turmeric-based product which can give immunity boosters. We launched some products, a UV beam light which can sterilize the room. Talking about artificial intelligence, we launched one product from a company called Indra for detecting COVID-19 through X-rays. So they had artificial intelligence-based tool to detect the COVID, looking at the X-rays of chest X-rays. Then we had products related to many say diagnostic products, diagnostic kits, for example. NeoDx is the company which launched kits for diagnostics in COVID. And these diagnostic kits, you must realize that it was actually coming from abroad, most of them. So from here the innovation started and manufacturing, etc. Many such, so 28 such products we have launched and during the period of COVID. Apart from COVID, we have launched one cancer panel for Indian cancer patients, because whatever we were having from abroad could detect only the Caucasian population, the cancers in Caucasian population. But we developed our own cancer panel for breast cancer and other cancers also. So I can say, and some enzymes, industry important enzymes. So many such products were actually launched. So I could say that we have now the confidence that if such disease or such type of emergency situation exists, we are in a position to solve those in a very short period of time. We have the capabilities in terms of the talent with the startups, resources, funding, and regulatory clearances lined up with venture funding coming up. So I think there's a lot of confidence. If such situation exists here, we will be able to solve it.
Under your guidance, the BBC has reached, and you've handheld the BBC to reach where it is today. What is your vision going forward?
We need to strengthen this ecosystem more. How we can strengthen? 50 startups is a very good startup to start with, but this is still a very small number compared to what we need in Bangalore. The density of startups compared to the population density is still less, I would say. So more and more startups have to come in this center. So we have to create more space for them. So we have 10 acres of land. We would like to create some more centers like Bangalore Bioinnovation Center, Farm Innovation Center is coming up. Vaccine Center, we are thinking that with Emory University we should have. Then we should create some more pilot scale manufacturing, biomanufacturing. Those things are still missing. We cannot have, say for example, CHO cells for production of vaccines or for production of any bio molecule. So we have to create those systems. BSL-3, as I said, animal house for preclinical trial, more and more linkages with hospitals where immediately whatever happening at a preclinical level can be actually tested at clinical level and then it can be commercialized. So it's a huge challenge still we are facing. This is just a start which we have cleared our ways. Suppose it's a jungle and we have cleared our way, but now we have to run marathon. So that is what I think going forward we will look at it. The other thing is the enabling mechanisms. One part that I missed telling you before is that we have also created an intellectual property cell which helps these startup companies filing intellectual property, IP. We help startup companies doing freedom to operate search or patent landscaping. So that is one very important service. The other thing is we have heard about how virus escaped from Chinese lab.
Yes.
So we have to make sure that no such accidents happen in Bangalore Bioinnovation Center.
Mm-hmm.
So we have very strong environmental health and safety division here. The challenge is, say for other institutions, it's a homogeneous organization. So one diktat or one uniform rules of environmental health and safety will do. But here, every startup is having a different project. Every startup will have a different requirement. Every startup will have to be dealt in a different way. So we have an overarching environmental health and safety committee which looks after each incubatee's problem. So how it is solved? Basically, we have to tell them that you have to prepare a standard operating procedure for your operations. You have to submit to us, and we monitor them whether they are environmentally compliant or not. We have an institutional biosafety committee which looks at the proposals that they are working on, because as you know, nobody can work on living organisms without the committee approval. Okay, so whether it's a genetically modified organism or recombinant DNA, they have to get the approval. Okay, so we have created a national standards for these things in India. Okay. So I think this is what we have to do, and we have to create examples for others.
Dr. Jitendra Kumar, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here with us. And I sincerely hope that you achieve your vision sooner than later. I thank you very much for spending your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.